All right. It's 2026 and everybody I know wants 300K salaries. But nobody wants the SEC Wells notice that comes with it.
Yeah, Fern, if you're a CISO in 2026 and you're not negotiating your directors and officers D&O insurance, you're not really an executive. You're more like a sacrificial lamb.
And if you're still prompting AI instead of building it, you're probably already obsolete. This is the 2026 Salary Showdown, the DTF Cyber Podcast. I'm Damian.
This is Troy.
And it's your boy, Fern. Let's go. So let's start off with a personal story that both of you guys are very much well aware of. I would say over the last month or two, I've been putting in some applications, right? I couldn't tell you how many applications I've submitted. It was probably less than 50. Every single one that I applied for, denied. Like either.
What were you applying for? Obviously not McDonald's or Costco.
No. So I was applying for sales roles. And
cyber specific or anything tech?
I try to focus on cyber because it's like a lot of people that I know are in cyber. So I would be like an idiot to try and find something outside of that, right? So mostly predominantly cyber. There were a couple that were like infrastructure, like storage, just to be specific. I even had people that worked at these companies submit a referral for me. The only times that I had an actual conversation with a person was when someone that knew me referred me. Every other thing that I've submitted, denied. There was one role I applied. It was Friday night. I got a LinkedIn notification that said, "Hey, this role is open. Just posted." All right, cool. I'm gonna be the first applicant. Click it. It's Friday night. Like, who's submitting jobs on Friday night? It's like 10 o'clock, by the way, as well. Submit it. Wake up in the morning, denied. And not even just denied. It said this role's already been filled. And that to me was the nice way of saying not interested.
That was fast though.
And then 2 weeks later, reposted the job. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to say who that was, but I will say they are doing poor.
Yeah, if you think about it, there's a lot of people starting their cyber careers and they're just shooting out like 50 resumes, 50 applications. I mean, flooding the application process and not getting one single response.
No. So this might sound bad, but I don't care because this is the truth. I get to hang out with you guys, right? I get to hang out with a bunch of CISOs. I know a lot of security people that people would pay money. People literally pay money to sit across from them. I can't even find a job. Like, how ridiculous is that? Like,
yeah, I think Fern, we've talked about this on past episodes where, that warm intro is absolutely crucial. We're trying to encourage the next generation of cyber warriors or people getting into cybersecurity. But without that warm intro, it's nearly impossible because you're competing with the AI application readers and you have the people like Damian was just talking about who are creating their applications with AI to match the AI intake from the company. And this is just a world that we live in where folks like yourself, myself, Damian, we could apply at 100 jobs and never receive a call until somebody says, "Hey guys, you should talk to Troy or Damian or Fern because these guys know their stuff and they'd be a great fit for this role." Then you get a call back. But I think we're living in a world where we've said to young folks and also in the middle of your career, network. Go to these networking events, meet people, expand your network horizons because that's how you're going to have opportunities in the near future.
Yeah, that's exactly how I found my job, right? When this episode comes out, the truth, the world will know, right?
So you can't really announce it.
No, I mean, I can. We'll just do it same day. It's the same thing to me. Okay. So Damian said, "Hey, you should talk to these people," right? They do really good work. I've used them, right? Great company. Puts me in touch with someone. I just pick up the phone. The guy calls me. I'm literally at the grocery store shopping, talking to him for like an hour and a half. I didn't know who he was. Turns out he was a CEO. I don't think I ever sent him a resume. We talked long enough to where he knew like what I knew, and we talked about the things that I've done in the past and kind of what I've done with all this stuff or just in life in general. And then a few weeks later, done deal, right? From what I remember, no resume that I sent him. wasn't an application. It was, hey, you should go talk to this person. Or more so, Damian saying, hey, you should talk to Fern. And then Damian telling me, hey, don't be dumb. You should talk to these people. They're really good at what they do. And their security, right? So interesting how that worked out. Obviously, wasn't what I was expecting. I was thinking I was going to submit an application, right? So when I see that this is a topic today, it's like near and dear to my heart, literally, because like this is what I've been dealing with for the last few weeks. But so I think it's ridiculous how the system works, right? Because clearly, like outside of paper, if I were to meet someone in person, or we talked about the podcast or things that we've done either collectively or just me as an individual, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, like Fern, Fern's a good person to know. Fern can help us out. People literally call me saying, hey, can you help me get a meeting with this person? I'm like turning people down because it's like, I don't know if they're interested, right? But yet when I submit the application, the bots that are reading my application are saying no. So it's not just happening to me. Like I happen to be
Well, yeah, that's one problem, right? Just getting your foot in the door to have that conversation. But today's episode is all about the salaries. So, I think this is a good time to talk about, how much money we're seeing. I think there's some research that we probably pulled up for 2026. And obviously the introduction of AI, because in your case, AI is scanning your resume or your application and saying yes or no immediately.
Yeah, not qualified, right? Or maybe I'm just poor at writing resumes, but it's not just me. It's a lot of these people. There's cybersecurity shortage, right? Skills gap, right? Now I'm being firsthand in the situation. My first thought is like, is there really a skills gap, or is it bots denying people left and right?
Well, how important is that resume?
Yeah.
Like Troy, how many times?
That's a great point.
How many times do you look at a resume, an actual resume?
When I'm hiring for a role, or recently, I get some candidates from my HR, my recruitment team, and I review them. They've already been through several rounds of processing before I ever see them. And they've already vetted out some folks. But I think one thing I wanted to go back to with Fern was that people are making a lot of assumptions based on your resume. You got to make sure that it communicates your value proposition very clearly. Because people, when I was looking for jobs after my last role and applying at jobs, everybody assumed immediately that I was overqualified, that I would not be interested in that role. But I want to say to hiring managers, there's a lot more motivations than just money or experience or size of company for a CISO, right? We like to build things. We like to create strategy, roadmaps. We like to build a culture. We like to hire and foster new talent. And so I think that, as hiring managers, they just automatically have all these assumptions from your history that they take into account, and they may discount you or not even call you back or say they've hired somebody else.
Yeah. I'm not calling you back
just because of that.
Because you're too expensive, or you seem to be too expensive.
That happened to me. Literally. Someone told our friend here, Damian, that there's no way they could ever afford me. Well, they didn't even have a phone call. They didn't even pick up the phone and call me.
I've heard that a lot. Absolutely. That's the thing. People were afraid to even give me a call. They're like, we could never afford this guy. And it's like, no, have a conversation. There's a lot more reward for CISOs than just the dollars.
I think that's for most people who are probably senior in their career. I don't know if you could say the same thing for somebody starting. I mean, maybe, right? You don't want to get paid minimum wage to be doing a SOC analyst job, but you also want to get the experience. Yeah. So it's not always about the money. I agree.
But SOC analyst roles right now, entry level was 0 to 2 years, according to this statistic that I'm looking at, is anywhere between $70,000 and $95,000 a year, right? Which is pretty good. When I got out of college with an engineering degree, my first job that I had was making, I think, 45 or 50. And this was like 20 years ago. Yeah, 15 years ago. But after a few years, I was up to 75. So this is actually pretty good. I mean, obviously relative to the time, but.
Yeah, I think a lot of schools kind of sell cybersecurity as, a high paying profession. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but you just saw what it took to get your foot in the door to get that call back, right? How many people are graduating with cyber degrees or even development degrees? Nowadays, they're learning how to build their own AI, not just prompt it. So we'll talk about that in a second. But what does that really give you in terms of starting salary? And should you worry about it? Because $70,000 is a starting salary for a SOC analyst. That's pretty good coming out of school.
Yeah, I've got a great story on that one, Damian. I have a friend here locally that asked me to talk to his nephew up in Washington State who had just graduated from college last year. And he was told and led to believe that as soon as he walked out of college with that degree, there was a skills gap. He'd be making six figures right out of college.
Yeah.
And the brutal honesty of it has hit him, and he has not been able to find a job, even in that 85, 90. And, he keeps going down that track, and he's being humbled somewhat. So I want to say to this younger generation, you're not going to walk out of college and instantly be handed a job. You're going to have to work hard for it. You're going to have to differentiate yourself from other talent, especially with the AI pressure of taking folks' jobs and reducing staff. But we'll get to that later. But I think you should just be smart and reasonable about what your expectations are out of college. Take that $70,000 job and show your worth. And within a year or two, you will be moving up into that six-figure range. But you can't expect just to be handed something out of college.
Yeah. I would even say, like, what about if somebody underbids, right, and says, here's 60,000.
That people will take it probably because they're just.
Well, somebody will take it.
Yeah, there's always someone's going to do it for cheaper, right?
Where's that? I mean, this is a supply and demand. What if they came in and said, "Hey, we'll give you 50,000"?
Depends on how. I guess it depends on the person's situation, right? It might just be like, whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah, as your first career job in cyber, I think weigh all the opportunities. You could do that for a year or two and then move on to other things with the experience.
Yeah. But here's the flip side of that is a lot of times people might get not underbid, but like they'll get kind of like a lower salary. So they'll get the job and then they're still looking for a job that pays more. Right. And then in 3 months they might be out the door. So it's like, even though that's.
Yeah, but I'd caution on that. If you're jumping jobs like that, to me as a hiring manager, that's a concern. What's going on there? Something's going on where maybe you're not a good culture fit wherever you go and you hop jobs.
Yeah.
Once they figure out, okay, you're really not that good.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking out loud, I guess. I've seen that happen where people get a job and they're just like, I'm just here for the check. And then they'll sit around for 6 months. And apparently 6 months on LinkedIn is like the magic window to have recruiters reach out to you. So it's like 6 months.
So if you start working at a place and you're there for 6 months, recruiters hit you up?
Yeah, I've heard that from multiple people. Yeah,
interesting.
It's like you get nothing before the 6 months. As soon as you hit 6 months, it's like 10 or 15 people are reaching out to you, or like at least twice a week is what I've been told. So like 6 months is kind of like the litmus test on like, oh, this person's able to keep a job. Maybe we can sell them, not sell them, but like,
This reminds me of the conversation of Fern. We talked about this the other day. When you get a new job, and you're about to start, you get 10 other calls for jobs, right? It's the same thing when you're dating the hot girl in high school. Now, all of a sudden, you're dating this hot girl and you have everybody come out of the woodwork who wants to date you, right? It's this really unique phenomenon. But I would go with Damian on this one, caution you, don't just jump for $5,000 or $10,000. That may sound like a lot of money today, but if you're jumping from the frying pan into the fire, poor culture, you don't like that job, and you're going to suffer while you're there, that $5,000 or $10,000 is absolutely not worth it. Plus, keep your options open and try to find that passion, as we mentioned, and follow that path.
Yeah. Funny how that works. I signed the paperwork. I forget what morning it was. It was an early morning, maybe like Monday or Tuesday. Literally that same day, 2 phone calls from people saying, hey, I got a job for you. Like, where were you for the last 2 months? So there is hope, right? But it is interesting that it does work that way where, you're looking and nothing really comes up. You find something and then all of a sudden everyone else wants to call you up without even understanding that like you've even signed anything, right?
Now we're talking base salaries, and this is for the United States. So if you're in a different country, might be a different currency and different cost of living. So in addition to the base salary, there's probably bonuses or equity. You work for a publicly traded company. There's other stuff that you have to take into consideration.
Yeah. Vacation, PTO, sick days, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
How much of your PTO transfers?
How much you like the CEO?
This is true.
I mean, if you spoke to the CEO for an hour and a half and he didn't even know he was the CEO, that's
no.
would you have acted differently?
Probably not. Nah. But I was just honest. I was just myself, like how I am here. It's just like if someone meets me in person, the person that they listen to or watch with this is the exact same person they're going to get. And usually I stick my foot in my mouth a lot of times. There was a text that went out last night that I said something that it didn't really like backfire. I'll tell you guys about it later. But I was like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have said that because it's like, I don't know. So I'm very much unfiltered, right? But I would have been the same with him or anyone else, because it's like, the way I look at it is, if you don't like me when I'm just myself, then that's perfectly fine. We don't have to do anything together. But if I have to pretend to be someone else just for people to like me, like, that makes my life more difficult. And I feel like I'm getting old. Like, I just want to be myself.
I think that goes for young people too.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah, don't be a chameleon. Just like actually be whoever you are, and you'll find the people that like you for that, right? And then you don't have to be different around certain people. But I guess let's get back into like some of the segments that we had listed here, because the main thing that I have on the list here is how there are all these entry level jobs that people may or may not be able to get. That's one part of it. The other part is a lot of those entry level jobs are being taken over by tools. And I'll give you a really good example. Tier 1 SOC analyst role. A lot of that is turning into AI triage and just AI, maybe not remediation, but now where SOC analysts are moving into a different tier where they're being more prescriptive in the things that they do, right? And I think Damian's been a part of these conversations. I'm sure, Troy, you've been a part of these conversations where people are looking at, for their organizations, how can they transition from a level 1 SOC analyst to be fully using AI tools, and then repurposing those people for more like engineering or like remediation or incident response, right?
Well, let's back up for a second. So, Troy, do you think a SOC analyst is an entry level job?
Not at all. I mean, if you become an analyst, most people transition there from like the help desk or some other part of the business, but I'm not sure that a SOC tier 1 analyst is necessarily entry level. But I would say this: as much as we're looking at AI automating a lot of that process for triage and all the filtering, which I am totally an advocate for, I don't think that those people go away, because we need this path to build talent. Usually we hire folks who are interns. They work in some type of function, either in operations or governance, and then they work their way up into the more granular SOC levels, tier 2, 3, and tier 4. We can't stop that pipeline. We can't cut out level 1s, because that's a learning phase of the people that we're trying to push through this knowledge learning process.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, because I think a SOC analyst level 1 can be entry level, but it's starting to get harder because of AI. So I don't think, the days of where we used to have people sitting in front of a screen waiting for alerts to fire off and responding to that's gone, right? I think it still exists, because there's some stuff that we haven't automated or we haven't gotten AI to address just yet. But on the horizon, that whole level 1 SOC triage probably gone.
The process, maybe not the person.
Yeah.
Well, the person will have to, like you said, Troy, move up the stack. And so now they're, I'll give you a perfect example. I was looking at within my team how efficiently we're using AI in the SOC. And one of the questions was, where are we seeing the efficiency, right? That's a common business question.
So wait, you said you're using AI and you want to see where the
where's the efficiency? Like if you're using AI, any business leader is going to say, well, the cost is money.
Okay.
Right?
So
how much is it saving the whole process in time?
Okay.
Or can it do it time in terms of length of time and then speed?
So this is already deployed in use.
Yeah.
Now do the calculation post-purchase.
But if you just think about the basic stuff, like an alert fires off, now an analyst doesn't actually have to go and look at it and investigate and triage it. An AI kicks off full automation triage and then comes back and says, hey, this alert fired, and by the way, I did all the prep work for you, and this is what I think happened.
I think we're going to live in a day where the tier 1 operation of doing all that manual work and correlating the, how bad is this threat, who owns the domain, all the telemetry around it, we won't even remember that existed. We won't even know that was a job. And back in the early 1900s, there used to be a function called the vice president of electricity, whose job was to manage the incoming and the production of electricity to support the factory or the plant or whatever it was. That's not a job anymore, because we've just moved into a new future. And I think that in the coming years, we won't even really remember how the SOC was run 2 to 5 years ago. It'll just be natural that the people who were what we call tier one today are doing something much more elevated and upskilled than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah. Remember the telephone operator? The one that
Yes,
had to actually
exactly.
patch the phone calls?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember commercials on TV?
Do you remember TV?
Do you remember Do you remember TiVo? The way to get around, and then streaming. Funny story, like sidetrack, or we'll say sidetrack. What do you think my kid's favorite thing to watch is on TV right now? The commercials.
Oh, no way.
Because they've never seen them. Like they've grown up watching whatever they want on demand, like on Disney Plus or like Netflix or Hulu or whatever they're watching. No ads, right? And recently,
hint. You're the dad. You're being a great dad, and you're removing all the ads. Our kids still have ads on Hulu and all the other stuff because we're not paying the exorbitant fees for all these streaming services.
Fern has the
to have
baller
no
package.
ads.
Yeah, he's got the baller
Yeah,
package with cuts out the
apparently.
commercials.
got the big money package. This was like a few years ago when when Disney Plus never had ads inside of it. Now you watch it and it's like pops up, or you like pause it and it's an ad. So, no, we don't pay for the, we have them. We don't pay for the primo, but it's interesting because like now my kids, like they enjoy making their own commercials. Like they do their own ads with each other, like in front of us, like they're like acting out. And it's like, what kind of ad is this again?
What are you trying to get me to buy?
Yeah. They're like, they do weird like medicines that just make up stories. But I do think it's interesting how, for them, they're not used to something, right? And we look at it like, oh, I remember back in the day when we used to change a channel and then hope that we came back in time for when the series started up again. And for them, it's like commercials are cool.
And that's a problem with, we just start with the SOC. If we lose that entry level, where do we get people started training? Because they have to understand what's happening at that layer in order to take the next level, right?
Yeah, they
Exactly.
have to be good at it. But here's the other side of the coin for that one is I've met plenty of people in either executive roles or leadership roles that refuse to hire someone with zero experience in the SOC for a SOC role, right? Because they look at that as a business risk issue, right? They're essentially potentially hiring someone that could drop the ball, oversee something, or have an oversight to certain things, not see something happen, end up in compromising situation, right?
Well, I think AI helps that because now you're able to cover everything. And then at some point, ask the human, hey, I just saw this. Do you want to just double check? That's like Tesla, FSD, right? The car drives itself, but you still have to be there.
Yeah, but it kind of reminds me, it does drive yourself, and maybe this is a bad analogy, but like, I know the whole calculator and tool analogy is like very overused with AI, but it's like, if you don't understand how to do the math, a calculator isn't going to help you, right? You have to kind of understand the basics.
I don't know if I agree with that. If AI gives me the answer to the problem at my fingertips and I don't have to go do the underlying calculus and algebraic formula.
Yeah, but how do you know it's not hallucinating?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're assuming that it's right. Or you're assuming that the input was correct. Because think of it like this. I don't know if you guys have ever used any of the engineering software, like MATLAB or MATLAB, where you have to actually enter in the function and do it. If you do it wrong, or you put the parentheses in the wrong place, it does the equation incorrectly. Like, so there are properties in math where things have to be done a certain way or a certain order. And if you enter it incorrectly, like say you're doing some sort of integration, or you're doing some sort of like calculus problem where you're figuring out like dissolving fluids into other fluids in like a mixed system, differential equations, like if you put the wrong input in, you're going to get the wrong answer out. So you have to at least understand how you're using the tool and what you're submitting to it, because assuming that it's going to be right 100% of the time, it's kind of like a miscalculation. And then all of a sudden, bridges collapse and people get hurt.
I think that, we certainly don't want to let AI just take over and run our SOC for us. I think, that human in the loop is so important. They have to know how we got to this point. The AI can shortcut that by researching the domain, getting the threat level. Here's what I saw in your EDR logs. Here's what I saw in your firewall logs, and tell you what that story is. Get it all the way to the point of make a decision, human. I suggest you block this at the firewall. And then the human has to push the button to say, yes, please do that automation. And of course, the AI goes off and does it. There has to be a human in the loop. And you're exactly right. We can't get rid of the humans understanding why the AI got to that point and every step of that enrichment process and telemetry to push the button to take action. The human has to still know that. So that's a great way of learning on the job. You have mentors, you have seniors that are teaching the new people how they understand all of that process. But I really think that AI is going to change the way we do business in the SOC.
Well,
And we're going to get to a point that it's going to be just automated all the way to completion.
potentially. But I think here's the differentiator from doing that entry level to the next level in your career.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just learn how to prompt the AI, right? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
table stakes for everyone now. If you're not using AI, you can't prompt it. You don't know how to use it. Just asking basic questions, you're already behind. Where you have
Mhm.
to be is building really those mechanisms where we're automating the agentic AI tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the next step.
Exactly.
And you have
That
to
is.
be able to evolve yourself. And if you don't, like if we didn't go out and research OpenClaw and other things that are happening in the industry, we just fall behind.
Yeah. Or you wouldn't be aware of it, right? So then,
Well, I mean, you just be ignorant it's out there in the news.
Mhm.
You haven't paid attention. You haven't figured out how this is going to potentially change the world.
Mhm.
Although
And I
in
quote
our
you all
episode,
the time, Damian.
yeah.
I quote you all the time as saying, AI is not coming for your job. The person who has embraced and is fluent in AI is coming for your job.
Yeah. So I know we did an episode on OpenClaw and some of the,
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, yeah.
issues to watch out for. Those are just cautions today. In the future, all that stuff's going to be locked down and secured.
Yeah, so it'll be locked down and secured, and then part of the struggle then is like businesses justifying the people, or not the people, but justifying paying people the higher salaries as they go up the stack. Because I think Damian said it, if you can get a 10x efficiency, right, on the work that someone does, now that you have this tool that's doing a lot of this work, are you paying that person more, or are you paying them less if they're relying on these tools that you have to pay for as well? So that's kind of like the next thing is the pay gap that kind of is a result of all this automation, all of this integration with AI tools. Is, do you guys feel that there might even be like a trap for people?
Yeah, I think Fern, we're going to see an AI squeeze. I think we're going to see a squeeze where two things are happening at the same time. Number one, jobs are going to become a little more scarce. So scarcity in jobs is going to continue to rise because companies are looking for ways to reduce headcount with AI, whether it's justified or not. Look at the recent, half of the company at Block, was it? Jack Dorsey's company that laid off 4,000 people out of just under 10,000. So you're going to continue to see companies demanding less headcount because of AI. And at the same time, you're going to see salaries dropping because those competing for those fewer jobs, the companies are in control. They can say, we're not going to pay you exorbitant amounts of money because we have 50 people who need a job and they will take much less than you. So I think you're going to see that squeeze on the salaries. And I don't think you're going to see just these enormous numbers in cybersecurity anymore. It's probably going to go down.
Yeah. You know what they can't take away though? The people that are working for free, like we are right now.
That's right.
You want to take 100?
Give your money back if you don't like it.
You got to take away 100% of what I make on this show? $0?
Which is why I had to get a real job.
Yeah. Podcasting doesn't pay any money. Like, what was I thinking? Where did I take my life? But I agree with Troy. I think he's 100% spot on where the leverage becomes, it goes in favor of the organizations, because as more people are looking for work, people are more willing to do things for less, or just to be able to make ends meet, right? So I don't know. I think there's a lot of scary things around the corner. Not sure when. Have you guys seen the people going around asking AI if based on I think the wording is something like, based on what you know about me, am I going to be replaced by AI? Like, that's a question people are actually asking. And there's people that are actually getting answers like, yeah, in 6 to 8 months, you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah. I mean, call it what it is, right? I'm not paying $70,000 for an analyst to just sit there and look at a screen anymore. Because AI, I could just have it automate it, wait there for the alert and fire off. Might cost me pennies and be a lot quicker.
Or like $200 a year or $200 a month, like licensing costs, right? maybe even on the high side, that's probably where it's at, $200 a month, right? Per user type license. So yeah, 70,000 just to stare at a screen does not make too much sense.
Yeah, I wonder how many entry SOC jobs now say you need AI as a skill set.
It's a good question, but I would say to anybody listening to this, if you are in cybersecurity, you need to embrace AI. So that means get certifications, become, have your own home lab, as we've talked about before, get a little Mac Mini, run your own, bots doing certain things with your email and your LinkedIn, not because you have to, but just because you need to learn that process. And I think that those people who do that are going to put themselves in a better position to keep their job or to move into other positions.
You could be looking to make anywhere between 70 and 90,000 as an analyst, right? But let's just say you take the initiative, maybe you have the curiosity and you end up learning Python, right? And you take that and you turn that into other things. Like you start automating things, right? You now have the skill set versus looking at something and trying to figure it out. You have a skill set in like scripting or like doing these other programming, if you will, right? That's going to pay you a lot more than being able to look at a screen for 70 grand. So I think part of the onus is on the people to take the initiative to improve their skill set. And whether it's with an AI tool or not, doesn't matter.
Well, I would argue, maybe you can use AI to do the Python scripting these days.
Mm-hmm. Anthropic Claude is great for that.
So I don't even know where that's going to go. But I do think you need to have that base understanding of how to script. I mean, that's how I started my career. I used to write a lot of scripts. I still like doing it.
But how often do you do it on your own manually? So let me ask you this. If you had to do something today, would you go back to the old school way, like metaphorically busting out the pen and paper, or would you use tools?
Yeah, nobody does that anymore.
Right. Okay. So
not at all.
That's the thing is like, so most people aren't even doing that. So like, if you understand how to do it, you're still not even, nowadays, you're not doing it the way you used to. Right. So there's like this shifting of how people actually perform their work. Like the skill set's still there, but people are shifting how they actually accomplish it. It kind of reminds me of like cutting grass. I have no grass to cut in my house for a reason. But if you've ever seen the old lawnmowers where it's just the blades on the wheel and you just push it, then they have.
I had one.
Yeah. We had one when I was a kid. I used to have fun like running around doing that, like 7 years old, cutting grass for fun. My parents obviously conned me into that. But I was cutting grass with this like push mower. Then there's the gas ones, start doing that. Now they have something that just, it's like a little
Roomba.
Like a little Roomba.
Yeah.
You plop it down, it has like GPS and it has like all these other capabilities. It just runs around and cuts your grass for you, right?
It's like the Jetsons. We're living in the future now. But my 11-year-old daughter is using Claude to code Roblox games. She's got 3 going. They're pretty popular. People play them. She understands the code well enough to troubleshoot it at 11. So I think there's something to be said, Damian, for using these coding agents and learning that language as you go along.
Yeah, my kids play Roblox. Damian's kids, or not Damian, Troy's kids, write the games. And there's
just the youngest. She loves that stuff. But honestly, I think it's really important that speaking of coders and developers, there's a whole nother existential crisis for if you're a software developer, if you're a coder today for your work. You used to be the golden goose for the company. Now you're like wondering if you're even going to have a job next year. And so I think cyber is protected from that because we're not going to have a lack of threat actors trying to attack our companies. But you have to be flexible to the new future, as I call it.
Yeah. And then go back to, getting that first job or getting a job. As a hiring manager, I would rather somebody say, here, meet so-and-so as a warm intro, because then I know they're not just using AI to generate their resume or using deepfake and telling me the answers I want to hear. So I think that's...
Is it fair to say that, Damian, in the age of AI, personal connection is going to matter the most?
I think so. I think there has to be. You can't have a cold transaction, especially when it comes to some of these roles. Especially
as the dollar figures go higher, right? Because I think the other side of that too is, like Damian said, he's not going to pay someone 70 grand to sit and stare at a screen. Like as a business, people are looking at how their money is being spent, like how their budget is essentially being consumed by either full-time employees, contractors. People are looking at, criticizing how every dollar is spent, not because, they're like micromanaging it, but they want to, they're people. They want to make sure they're getting their fair share of their money's worth. So if I go back to the salaries, let's see here, security engineer with minimal experience. I mean, it says 0 to 2 years, but that probably comes with a few years prior experience outside of that specific role. Anywhere between 90 to 120,000. Pen testing, just under 110,000. Cloud security specialist, just under 130, right? And as you go on, 3 to 5 years, 7 years plus, like the cloud engineers are making, 190 to 200,000.
Yeah, you gotta be smart about it, right? If you're gonna map out your career, I don't know how many people would actually say, I'm gonna go into security and just manage physical firewalls anymore.
I don't know.
Right. I remember a time when that was it, right? Get your CCIE from Cisco and that you're set.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah.
Get the CCNA, get the CCIE, get all that. But maybe in a lot of ways, some people look at the CISSP the same way. It's like, once I have the certification, like I'm qualified. I know plenty of people with CISSPs that can't find a job or looking, right? And it's just a piece of paper to some people, right? And then when it comes down to the hiring decision, it's like whoever tapped the hiring manager on the shoulder.
Well, it's not a lock, because all that tells me is that you can take a test.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're any good at cybersecurity.
Yeah. You could just be really good at test taking. And there's a lot of people that are like that too. I've never taken the CISSP, but I imagine it's not like some of these tests in high school where there's obviously like 2 very wrong answers, right?
I don't. So I've had mine for
like 10 years, right?
15 years.
Mm-hmm.
A long time. And when I did it, it was on the bubble sheet with a pencil.
The
I think it's all
Scantron?
electronic now.
You're a Scantron kid.
I was sitting there for 4 hours thinking, when is this going to end?
It's definitely changing. And I think certs are good, but certs can only get you so far. And doing good work that people that you've worked with can vouch for. I think that's another thing too, is like, if you're looking for a role, I think a big part of that is having people vouch for you as a person or your skill set. So you might have like one of those personalities that doesn't get along with very many people, but you do really good work, right? There's plenty of those people.
I don't know. That's a tricky one.
I know
The toxic employee, we want to avoid that. But I do think that there's a lot of introverts listening to our podcast, some folks who are not comfortable going out and just meeting new people on their own. I highly recommend trying to get in some of your local networking groups, because it's so important, that warm human connection when you are looking for a job. We have a lot of folks, Fern, that are really good at their job, but just afraid to speak up. And I think that is where they get held back, where somebody who's louder and more braggadocious of themselves are going to fare better.
So you mentioned some of the different jobs moving up right into the middle part of your career. I think it's important for you to think about where you want your career to go, because like I mentioned, you don't want to get stuck managing legacy technology, whether it's software or hardware. I would say early in my career, one of my jobs wanted me to learn AS400.
Ugh, good thing you
did
did
AS400 administrator.
Dinosaur.
And I couldn't do it.
No.
So I end up leaving that place. But could you imagine? I mean, maybe these days,
Now they're in demand.
There's still a lot of banks that use AS400. You can't find people to maintain them. So maybe I made the wrong choice.
No,
You made the right choice.
You made the right choice. But you know what that's like? It reminds me of like Pokemon cards. Everyone had them. Not very many people saved them. And if you happen to have them now, they're worth a lot of money. So it's very few things that kind of come in and go and come back that are more valuable. I think at some point people expect the AS400 to fall off, but maybe the cost to modernize whatever application, the core system that runs, just outweighs the benefit, right? So people just like kick it down the road. I don't think that's going to happen with security. I don't think people are going to be kicking firewalls down the road. They're going to say, hey, like, do something more, do something better, right? Use these tools. So perfect example is a lot of roles that are specialized in AI and machine learning. They're actually getting a 15 to 20% salary premium over the traditional role. So you think of like firewall or network security engineer. and something around, well, I don't know what the alternative would be, but something that focuses on AI ML technologies or like use cases is paying almost 20% more. So you're already seeing it now where the premiums are being paid for people that are competent with these extra skill sets from what we'll just call legacy skills, firewalls, for example.
Yeah, because you're bringing right from the very beginning, you're bringing more efficiency, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. You bring the efficiency, but it's the same story that people saw 7 or 8 years ago when AWS, less so GCP, Azure came onto the scene, where companies were moving everything to the cloud. Who was the most paid person on that stack? Right, the cloud engineer. It was always a cloud engineer that got paid more than the networking engineer. Right now, you're kind of seeing the same shift where people that are using security and more specifically AI tools in security are getting paid a premium. Like, I don't think a cloud engineer is getting paid premiums anymore. Maybe they are.
No, but I mean, I think that's being pulled back too. A lot of companies are realizing that they can't control spend in the cloud anymore. And so they're going back to hybrid.
Yeah. So it's like, ebbs and flows, right? Things shift. Let me see here. And the other thing that might be worth mentioning is clearance bumps. So if you're having to work in government or defense contracts, those people are seeing anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 a year in a bump in salary for private sector roles without
And
or
with
compared to people.
with a current clearance.
Yeah. So clearance versus non-clearance, about $30,000 a year.
Yeah. You know what? When you're earlier in your career and you're younger, it's easier to go get that clearance, especially if you're working in the government. Later in your career, it's so much more difficult.
Well, it's probably easier to get it younger because you can make less terrible decisions.
Yeah.
you don't have 15 years of potentially bad decisions, right? When you're 40, as you do when you're 21.
I don't know. There's some 21-year-olds that make some really bad decisions too.
No,
I think if I were going to make any mistakes, it would probably be that stage in my life.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you nip it in the bud first, where you don't have a chance to do it, like you have a better odds because you haven't had crazy stories. I'm sure.
Yeah.
If
So I mean that's a good point. So if you do have clearance, there's value for that out in the private sector, not just in the government.
yeah,
but not everybody listening can really go through a clearance process or find a government contractor that would get them clear. But if you have one, that's definitely worth some money. I would also say, when you mentioned the CISO salaries between $200,000 and $400,000, there are some industries that pay much more than that. So if you are working for a B2B SaaS company, as an example, and you need to help secure the product that you sell, those can go into the $1+ million range. I know several CISOs making $1.5 to $2 million. And as you get into financial services, especially the big banks, anywhere from $2 to $3.5 million per year for a CISO salary. So it just depends on really your remit, how much you're responsible for, and what industry that you're in.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Troy. The people that are making $1.5 million, are they in a role that has a potential liability against them? Are they demanding a higher pay because of the risk involved? We always talk about risk.
I'll pay you a lot because you have a potential to go to jail.
Yeah, you might just take the fall, right? Is that?
I think Joe Sullivan and Tim Brown have shown us that we are all at risk for whether it's criminal or civil. But I don't think the folks in those positions, like in financial services or some of the bigger banks and technology companies, are getting that salary because they're at more risk. It's because they're responsible for more in the company, and the company is more at risk if there's a major cyber breach. So I think that's where the risk is.
Okay. But, okay, so I've never signed up for D&O Insurance, right? That I'm aware of. I don't think so. Maybe I have something with Allstate. I don't know. I got a bunch of stuff like umbrella policy, whatever, right? Maybe it's part of the packet. Probably not. Who knows? But when you guys sign for these roles, isn't that like a big part of the negotiation? Because I'll give you an example. I know people that strategically ask for more money because that's not part of their compensation, right? Or the way that they have their pay structured as a CISO, the business doesn't want to take on the liability, so they purposely pay these people more to cover policies outside of their internal policies, right? Because think of it like if you have homeowners insurance, right? and something happens, your rate's going to go up. But if you offset that to like I don't know, we'll call it like a Chubb policy for nice watches, as an example, and something happens, your home insurance doesn't go up. And so from what I've seen, people or organizations are doing that too. So I'm just kind of curious, like, since we're talking about money, are people like, how is that negotiated? 100%.
Good question. And so there's a difference between errors and omissions, which is more of a general insurance for companies if they submit forms with errors or omissions in them, and directors and officers insurance, which is protecting the directors of the company. And that's where CISOs have really been trying to get added as a named director in the company. So we have a C-level title, Chief Information Security Officer, like a Chief Financial Officer, but it's not really a director in the corporate documents or the operating agreement that the company has. So you're really asking the company to add you as a named director, because then if you get sued by the federal government or any other party, you're covered under the company's D&O Insurance, and they will cover you. And so that's what we've been negotiating. And I would love to say that we've had a lot of success with that. I do know some CISOs after Tim Brown who were added to the D&O, but it's not as many as we would like. And honestly, I know a lot of CISOs who have negotiated for that in their comp package and just not been successful. So I don't know if they're getting paid more money to go out and get their own insurance, but I can tell you that there's not been as many actually successful in being named as a director by the company. And what happens normally is a general counsel or somebody come back and say, well, you're covered. We got you. You're part of the business. We will cover you if anything happens. We're not going to add you as a named director, but you have coverage. And if you ask your own personal attorney, which I would highly recommend, how far you want to push that to get some type of writing and something in writing, et cetera. But when the chips are down, the company's going to protect the company, no matter what happens. And you know how HR is always your friend until they're not. And same thing with the company. So I highly recommend, if you're negotiating for that and you get denied, talk to your personal attorney and see how far you want to take that risk.
So Troy, you mentioned something about being the sacrificial lamb in the open. How do you know you're not jumping into a situation where, you're taking a fall?
That's why we have insurance. You never know. You never know what the company's going to be like in that moment. And for years, companies have always scapegoated the CISO and just, you're fired and you're done and you're on your own. Once you're fired, by the way, you're no longer covered by the company's insurance. They can choose not to cover you. Sometimes they choose to cover you anyway because it's in their best interest. They want you telling a very positive story about what happened, but they don't always do that. So I think that it's really important for you to protect yourself, get your own insurance, talk to your attorney, personal attorney that's not your company attorney, and make sure you cover yourself in a way that makes sense for your family and your situation. It's always different.
Okay, let me ask you this question though, because this is a true story. Actually, a couple of true stories. I know of a situation where someone was a CISO, left the role, went to, we'll just say another job. I don't want to say where they went because then it would give away who I'm talking about. Left the role as a CISO, and before they were officially done, they had to backfill the role, right? I want you guys to guess what the title of that role was when the first person was the CISO.
What do you mean? Like a level?
Yeah. So the person that was replacing the outgoing CISO, what do you think the job requisition listed as the title for the role?
InfoSec director?
Exactly. InfoSec director.
And what, the outgoing one was VP?
If you want to be specific.
VP CISO, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we see companies want to take that away, want to put them back under the CIO. It's a big mistake, in my opinion. I think companies should embrace the CISO, and we always talk about where should they report, into the CIO or into somewhere else. I highly recommend the CISO do not report into the CIO because you're competing for budget on projects. And a lot of times you're not aligned on what you want to do from a security perspective. The CIO has a very important remit of keep the lights on, make sure we don't have an operational outage, et cetera, where the CISO says we need to secure our systems. Sometimes CIOs make the choice of not investing in security technology because it might impact other digital transformation project that they're working on. So the timelines don't align, the budget doesn't align, the personnel doesn't align. I think the CIO is absolutely the wrong place for the CISO to report. Now, you're asking me where they should report. It could be the CFO, could be the chief general counsel, could be the chief risk officer, could be a lot of things, but I don't believe that they should report to the CIO.
Yeah, I think, so here's one of the things that we talked about earlier, right, was the supply and demand for entry-level analysts. The same thing applies at this level. There's a supply and demand. Somebody's going to want that title and will take less pay for it. And so if the organization's saying, hey, I need an executive at this level Maybe we don't give them an executive title, but we give them the CISO title, pay them lower because they don't have the experience. That happens quite a bit as well.
Yeah, but is that also like risk mitigation on the business side? Because now instead of having a potential director on their policy or part of like the D&O, I believe is what it's called, now they just have a director, right? Or like an actual like not like a C-level like managing partner.
I don't think they ask, right? They just ask who's your CISO.
Yeah, or that's another one too. Is like there's a lot of situations that I'm aware of where someone is technically a CISO on paper, on reporting like filings, like SEC filings, but they're technically not a CISO in the org chart, right? So that happens as well. I don't know. I just feel like businesses are doing things to protect themselves, which is obviously you can't fault them because.
Well, you're just proving that every CISO role is not created equal. How many friends do we know that are struggling with just the org structure for the security department? We have a lot of those friends who have the CISO title, but they don't have as much control as they think they should, or they don't make the decisions.
Or they may not even be at the conversation. They're just more so like an advisor. It's like, thanks for your opinion. We're still going to go do this instead, right? So like I think it's just a function of what Troy said. Who was it that said this? Actually, even if I knew, I wouldn't say who it was. But I wish I could remember exactly the wording that they said, but it was something about what pet project are you struggling with for your CIO, right? It's like, what pet project are you stuck with trying to fix as a security professional for your CIO? And the entire room started laughing, right? Because all these people in these security roles can like, I guess, relate where they feel like they're doing stuff for other people and they don't get to focus on the things that they want to do. Man, I wish I could remember the phrase. But it's a way for CISOs to bond. Is like, what pet project for your CIO is keeping you up at night? It's like,
I'll say this, Fern. If you are a CFO, chief general counsel, a CEO, or any other director on a board of directors of a company, and your CISO reports into your CIO, you are missing hidden risk, because the CIO is never going to elevate security challenges that contradict with his strategy. And that happens in every single company, not just my past companies, every company that I talk to, the CISO that reports into the CIO. When there's something unflattering that the CIO is doing, do you think they're going to take it on to report that up to leadership, to the board, to the CFO, the chief general counsel? Absolutely not. I highly recommend you move that CISO out into somewhere else, give them a direct reporting line into someone who has authority over the CIO so that the CIO and CISO are equals. You will start finding so much hidden risk in your business you had no idea about. If you actually want to do your fiduciary responsibility and surface real risk in the business, move the CISO out from under the CIO. Biggest thing you can do to impact your risk profile.
question for you. Yes or no? If the CISO is under the CIO, is that more or less security theater?
It depends on the relationship. I had a very good relationship with my CIO in previous roles. I worked with some autonomy, but there were times when there was a conflict, and guess who didn't find out about that risk? The board, the CFO, the chief general counsel, the CEO. It was all kept under wraps. So I think that, it depends on the dynamic of every relationship between the CISO and the CIO. And honestly, there's every bit of that gauge between the two. So I think that the way to solve that is to move them out.
I don't think you're the only one that thinks that. I think so that's for Damian. If you were to choose or guess what percentage of executive leadership in security wish that they were out from under the CIO, assuming that they are.
All of them.
All 100%.
Yeah.
Just straight.
It is absolutely a conflict of interest for the CISO to be under the CIO. Because when there's a digital transformation project on the CIO's plate and a security risk, the CISO has to choose, do I want to upset my boss and push the security agenda, or do I just go along because I don't want to get fired?
Yeah, the IT side, they're focused on connectivity.
Yeah.
Right? User experience.
Uptime.
Yeah, uptime, latency. So they don't want to put any additional steps in between that it's going to slow down that whole connection. because the user experience is going to drop, and then your metrics as IT leader goes down. So the argument is, well, every time security says we need another tool, we need to get better visibility, add more controls, it slows that down. And so you naturally are tugging at different responsibilities, different goals.
And let me restate this in a different way that might make more sense, is that I had a great relationship and I have highest respect for some of my previous bosses. They were probably some of the most influential people in my career. And we still had conflict. We still had disagreements where risk and cyber risk were greater than the IT risk, and the IT risk would never be, and the cyber risk would never be surfaced to leadership, be held down because the CIO didn't want to look bad. They don't want people shining a light in the closet or in the shadows where they weren't doing their job. And so they would keep that down. It would never get addressed. And so, no matter how great that relationship is, there's always risk that's out there that you don't know about.
So then in that case, Troy, do you take less salary to get a better structure? Or if they were paying you to be in a bad structure, would you take it? What's the value there, right?
Yeah, I think that that's a personal decision. And I have made that personal decision in the past that I don't want to, sit on my laurels and do nothing when there's cyber risk. And there are options you have. You can go around your boss. You can talk to the board. You can do things. But your days are numbered when that happens. And, I always choose the side of right rather than easy. And, I'm never afraid to say the truth when it's necessary.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in security that are like that, right? That's kind of why you're in security, right? So like it's kind of like
I could see why Troy interviews really well.
Yeah. I was telling someone about Troy earlier today. Actually, yeah, I was at this thing up in Tempe just before I came here, and they were asking about the podcast, and I go, yeah, this Troy guy, like, have you ever met someone when they talk, it just feels like they know it so well that they don't even have to think about it, and it's like I have to sometimes I have to rehearse stuff. I usually just kind of like spit it out, just like boom, like I swag it, stream it from stream of consciousness. But I was describing Troy and I said, Troy is like the guy where it feels like he's practiced this for like years and years, and he's just so good at like telling you the answer that it feels like it's like scripted, but it's not.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Sometimes I think I'm rambling, but yeah, I'm passionate. That's the word I would use.
Or it means you have so many reps that it's just like muscle memory. Right.
Wait. How many podcasts have you been on, Troy?
Yeah. No, it's not a podcasting thing. This is my first, and glad we were able to get it together. But I think that when you have a passion about something, you just continually learn. Like Damian said, with AI, you have to be continually learning on that front because technology will leave you behind if you don't.
So technical skills, right? Talking to the board, understanding how the board sees security, right? And like Damian mentioned, like the pay part, like do you take less? Knowing that you're going to have more autonomy, or if you take more, knowing that it's kind of like, I don't know if hush money is the right word, but maybe.
Well, I mean, also the culture,
acronym.
Right? I mean, last episode we talked about the human ROI. I think the culture within the organization also plays a role because maybe you take less money if it's a really outstanding company.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or if you make it so difficult for people to want, like Dom's story with the help desk situation, where the CEO wasn't taking out the CIO to like a lunch, and it was because I don't think he attributed 100% to help desk, but like he had said like the customer experience for the help desk was so bad that like no one liked people in tech. So like if you're in security, are you making it so difficult for people to want to even like interface with you? Like does that become a liability? I don't know. I think there's a lot of things to talk about or to consider when it comes down to how much you're making.
Yeah, that's why we've always said it's not really about how much you're making, because there's so many things that play into that factor of what's going to keep you happy and what's going to keep your career moving.
Yeah. So maybe, do you think security has gotten to the point where people are looking for the paycheck? Or they're looking to do the right thing?
No, I think everybody needs a paycheck, right? We wouldn't, if you weren't getting paid, would you do the job? That's a big question. I think a lot of people would say, well, why would I do the job if I wasn't getting paid? I could be doing something else, going to the beach, traveling. But then you can't afford those stuff, right? If you don't have money. So I think there's a balance. I think we're at a spot where, okay, you'll probably get a good balance of where your salary is going to be versus how much you need to live off of. But there's so much more to life. It's not just money driven. It is a motivator. Don't get me wrong, right? Who wouldn't want to make an extra $20,000? But at some point, you might look back on your career and say, you know what? It wasn't worth it.
Yeah. You know how many jet skis you could buy with 20,000?
No, 2, maybe.
I don't know.
I've never bought a jet ski.
Me either. That's why I'm
Between
wondering.
8 and 14,000, depending on how many people you want to put on it.
Of course, Troy knows.
Same.
Oh, I want one. There's no water here in Vegas, unfortunately. I had to go to Lake Mead, and there's not that. Long story short, I do want a jet ski. So remember the whole jet ski for bonus thing? I'll take that.
I could see Troy riding it back and forth in his pool.
Oh, no, it wasn't a jet ski for a bonus. It was jet ski for a PO. There's a difference.
I couldn't do that.
There was, and this particular story was, I don't know if it's bribe or if it's just a really nice thank you present, but there are stories out there of people getting.
I mean, it's both, right? It can't be a thank you for doing business with here's a jet ski.
Well, on a smaller scale, it's like, thank you for taking the meeting. Here's a $200 gift card. What's the difference?
We're going to get back into this episode. Okay, I got you. Before we get too far down the rabbit hole of gifting, but I just want to say as a closing thought, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you're wondering how you're going to, move into the next generation of cybersecurity in the age of AI. I think you really have to focus on yourself. Focus on the soft skills that make you who you are. As Damian said, come in and show up and be present with all of who you are. Don't try to be something that you're not, and people will love you for that. But also make sure that you're flexible and amenable to AI, because you've got to learn it. You have to embrace it. It's already here. It's not coming. It's already here. And those folks who resist it will be left behind. So please do me a favor, go study something, create some bots and understand AI so that you can move forward in this career.
Yeah, if you entered cybersecurity thinking you didn't have to learn anymore, you were mistaken. This is one of those steps where you're just going to have to keep up and keep learning.
They tell me I can't just prompt Claude and Gemini and have them all work together and do my job for me. That's not possible.
I'd like to see you try it.
What's the point of AI if I can't, have it do my job for me? According to Elon Musk, everyone's going to be out of a job in, I think he said 8 years. So I don't know. Are we doomed?
No, you can't be out of a job.
No. Okay. I was worried there for a
have to
second.
adapt.
Yeah, you just got to adapt.
Is there anything that we didn't cover? I think we covered most of the things that we had listed. So
yeah, I think the bottom line is, does money really matter? Probably not. I mean, it does play a role, but the salary ranges are so large. Like you said, entry level 70 to 90,000 US. That's a pretty big range.
yeah, but you basically get to the bottom end after Uncle Sam comes knocking, right? So,
Oh, I mean, that's
standard.
That's normal, right? You're gonna have to pay your taxes.
Pay your dues. Uncle Sam wants
Depending
you.
on what state you're in, you pay more, but that's your choice.
Yeah, I think money is important, but like you said, it's dependent on the people, their situation, and maybe even their skill set. Because I would be willing to bet either you or Troy would look at a job posting and say, I've spent way too much time doing this. I'm not taking it for less, right? I think there's a level of experience that people aren't willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
For
I think it
lower pay.
depends too, because if you're actively looking, you might be more desperate. If you're not actively looking, you already have a job, you might not.
That's right.
You're not going to be jumping unless it's something really exciting. You're not going to leave your existing company. Or if you really hate your existing company and you're looking for something new, yeah, you might jump. But if you have nothing and you're looking for a job,
Just take it.
yeah, you might
Just take it.
take it, and then you get like two other people asking if you're interested.
Take it, get the experience, and then figure it out afterwards. What about you, Troy? Anything that you wanted to add on here?
No, I'm just excited about what the future holds. We can't predict, but I will give one prediction to you, Fern and Damian, is that we're going to see what I call the AI squeeze. Talked about earlier. Salaries are going to start shrinking because there's just going to be so many people out there looking for roles. So don't focus on the money, focus on the fit and the passion. Find something you love and just stick with it. We can't promise that the salaries are not going to decrease, But you got to be ready for that if it's going to happen, and position yourself well. Don't be a holdout, because you might find yourself holding out for the rest of your career.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Because if you don't have a job is better than having no job. But I'll be totally honest with you. You don't necessarily need to go find a job. With AI today, you can make your own job.
Oh, like the guy from OpenClaw. One man team. One person.
Well, we're all sitting here. We're not on OnlyFans. If we were, we certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking about cyber. We'd be on an island somewhere drinking a cocktail. So there's a lot of things you can do to make money in this new world. And I won't even get into that. But if you plan on staying in cyber, be ready.
Be ready. Put in the time, put in the effort to make the money. Or at the very least, find the experience, get that, and then take it to the next level. So I don't have anything else to say. So I guess that's going to be it for today. We'll check you out next week.
Bots are gunning for your 9 to 5. Gotta hustle hard if you wanna feel alive. So build the code, don't be a sacrificial lamb. This is DTF Cyber, understand? We'll help you secure the bag. Don't let your firewalls lag.